We're back again this week. It's another solo episode. Yep, again, scheduling very hard. Sorry, just talking to someone who is struggling with something right now. But anyway, I'll be talking about stuff, so we'll get into it. This is the Experience Podcast with just me again this week. It's we'll see what happens. Sometimes these solo episodes do okay, so maybe I will do more of these, and just depending on again scheduling and things like that. That's how I'm doing that, and I don't really know like what you guys really want to hear me talk about. I got some things that I could talk about, but so we're just gonna kind of play it by ear. We do anything. Current events. We generally stay away from like politics and stuff in this show. Gas prices. Gotta talk about gas. Actually, funny thing about the gas prices. So the gas station nearby, well, it's on the way to work, has a Sunday gas sale. So it's a 5 cent discount per gallon every Sunday. They run that. So, I was going to work Sunday and I was like, no, maybe I should get gas today. But with gas prices declining every day, it's almost more lucrative for me to just wait for the next day when the price could be 5 cents lower already anyway. So, so that I still had like half a tank. So it wasn't really like an urgent need, but so I'll just wait and then just wait for the price to come down, and then fill up gas later. So anyway, that's my gas story. So next, I guess we'll talk about. I mean, we got like some entertainment. I guess I can talk about like the Comic-Con stuff that came out. I just got back from seeing Nope, the new Jordan Peele. That's how I'm texting them right now. They're struggling to understand that the movie is actually called Nope. They say, "Oh, what movie did you see?" Nope. Like, what? What was the movie called? Nope. Why don't you tell me? No, it's like a who's on first kind of thing. Anyway, so I saw Nope, the new Jordan Peele movie. Pretty good. It's being listed as a horror movie. I guess there's some frightening elements. There's some thrills. But it's not really, I wouldn't really call it horror. It's more of a thriller, kind of about, and I don't want to spoil like what it's about because I think it's kind of cool going in not knowing. It's pretty straightforward, actually. I thought it was good. I think it was amazing, but Jordan Peele always has some interesting things to say, and if you read into some of the subtext that he's getting at and some other stuff that happens, it's not bad. I think it does a pretty good job. And for the record, and all the stuff I'm going to talk about today, I'm not going to spoil anything, right? So I'm not going to say what happens in Nope. I'm going to talk about some other stuff. I'm going to mention some things that I have questions about for other shows and things like that. So yeah, again, I won't be spoiling anything. I'll just speak more generally. I did the spoiler thing for Stranger Things, but that was, because it come out and there's something to talk about, I guess. But yeah, anyway, Nope, pretty good. If you like the Get Out and the Us and all the other stuff that, I don't know why I added that in front of this stuff, but if you like Get Out and Us and all the other stuff that Jordan Peele has produced and things like that, it's more of the same, and it's got echoes of like Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's maybe worth your time to go see in the theaters sometime in the next few weeks while it's out. All right, that's Nope. Let's cross that one off the list of things I can waste time talking about. All right, the next one. Let's talk about this one next. Well, no, let's do so. New season of Solar Opposites came out, and this is a great show. Like, it's on Hulu. If anyone doesn't know, it's by Justin Roiland, who is, I don't know if he's officially like a creator on Rick and Morty, but he voices Rick and Morty. Oh yeah, he's a co-creator. He's listed as a co-creator. He's one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty. He does the voices for a lot of the characters, including Rick and Morty. Um, he did his own little thing called Solar Opposites, which it's hard to describe what this show's about. So it's I guess it's about an alien quote unquote family. I guess they're family who land on Earth and now have to adjust to Earth. And again, I don't want to get into like the specifics. I won't get into all the specifics of how that happens, but um, there's a bunch of other like extra side stories and things like that that happen. Kind of like a Rick and Morty. It's very similar to Rick and Morty. And the third was it the third season? The third season just premiered. But and it's like a nice kind of like if you need like a Rick and Morty kick or just like a animated sci-fi show. This is certainly one of them. But then, yeah, again, like the side stories, I think, in the show. You get the alien family, and it's a bit of a third rock from the sun kind of a thing where they're adjusting to human life and whatever, and they do all that stuff. But some of the side stories are arguably more interesting. You got, the alien children, I guess they're called replicants in the show, have been, start shrinking down people and putting them in the wall in their house, and you end up getting these wall people, they're living in the wall, and they create their own society. There's political intrigue and uprisings and all these other things that happen in the wall, quote unquote the wall, where these people are shrunk down and imprisoned. And there's great stuff about that. Every season has a whole arc on the wall and things that happen there. Like that stuff never gets old, in my opinion. And then in the third season they start expanding the universe. They talk about sort of these intergalactic police officers who end up doing, who are maintaining order throughout the universe, and they kind of get into some more themes there. And I don't want to spoil what happens with the police officers, but they introduce like another kind of sprawling parts of this universe, and it's again, it's a pretty good show. Quick, they're like half an hour each. There's like 3 seasons on Hulu. So yeah, that's a good show. I would definitely recommend that, again, if that's kind of sounds like something up your alley. So yeah, that's Solar Opposites. This is what it's called, Solar Opposites. Justin Roiland, one of the co-creators, and Mike McMahon, who also was one of the creators on Star Trek Lower Decks, which I have not seen, but I hear very good things about. And McMahon also worked on Rick and Morty and things like that. So looks like, oh yeah, so that's Solar Opposites. I'll check that one off. All right, the next show is really me asking questions, I think, because I don't understand this show. I haven't understood this. So there's a show is called Westworld, right? And I'm sure you've heard of it, Westworld. It's about robots who I guess are called hosts in the show, who interact with human beings, and sort of the point of the show is like what's real and what is reality, and it's what you make of it and all this sort of stuff. But the first season, they're in the park. They're in like an amusement park. Right? It's like themed based on like the Old West, like the Wild West, and you kind of sort of discover what's really going on, and the AI, the hosts, become sentient, and they sort of break the construct of, or they break through the boundaries that they've been in the storylines that they've been written into. And then season 2 kind of expands more on that, and then season 3 is where it really goes off the rails. They go into sort of the real world, and yeah, and to be honest, I have like I watched all of season 3, watched it as it came out, and I still have no idea what happened in that season. This is a bunch of stuff, and uh, again, I don't want to spoil anything in case you're like, oh, I'm thinking about starting at Westworld, but uh, yeah, it just it's very confusing to me. I guess I'm not smart enough for it, but uh, yeah. And anyway, and then the 4th season, which is what's out right now, it's about halfway done. So I just watched the 5th episode last night, and also when this podcast is going to come out, the 5th episode just premiered out of 8. And it's getting a little Matrixy, little, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but they're getting really into the what is reality and who and sort of this war between the hosts and the humans, and I guess the good hosts and the bad hosts, and all this other stuff. And I again, very confusing. I'm gonna need someone to explain it to me, to explain Westworld. Maybe someone will. If you leave in the comments, you can describe and explain to me what's going on, because again, I still, because I anytime I watch this show, and someone sees me, or they'll ask me like, hey, what's that show? I'm like, oh, I'm watching Westworld. And they go, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, but I'm watching it. So yeah, that's Westworld. They're in season 4, and that's also a pretty quick show to catch up on. There's not that many episodes. There's let's see, episodes. Yeah, so there's 10 episodes in the first 2 seasons each, and then 8 in these last 2. So not a ton of episodes, and you can catch up pretty quickly. But they're hour long, and again, it's a little confusing, especially for my smaller brain. All right, so the next show that I'm watching, we're just going through stuff though, and then maybe we'll get into like sports or something. But the next show is one of the best shows on TV right now, and it's a great palate cleanser for a show like Westworld. Westworld, it's dark and it's deep in thought, and you really got to think about what's going on, and existential things, and about what how reality and perception, all this stuff. But then sometimes it's nice to just watch a show called Only Murders in the Building, which stars Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez as these 3 people who are just like, who meet, they all live in the same apartment building, and they end up meeting and bonding because they are really into true crime podcasts, right? And so when they sort of fall into, in the first season at least, when they sort of fall into an actual crime that happens in their building, they kind of decide, hey, what if we do a true crime podcast? And then they kind of start solving it, and it's a bit of a whodunit, right? Because there is a murder. That's not really spoilers in the title. That happens, and then they're trying to figure out who did it and what happened, and the whole time they're kind of poking fun at true crime podcasts and like the true crime genre as a whole. But then also, like, it does a great job of building out these characters. Like, it's for a comedy, and it's a comedy, or it's a comedy mystery, I guess, but it still does a great job of building out who these characters are and what their backgrounds are and their motivations. And so again, it's one of the best shows. It's a great it's a great sort of counter to all the dark and serious shows. I'm watching Better Call Saul, which is really great, but it's also like just really tough to watch sometimes. And then sometimes you just want to watch Martin Short and Steve Martin just goof around on screen for like half an hour. That's a great show, and then also it does also make you think, because again, you got the whodunit, and also something else that I should mention. Only Murders in the Building has perhaps one of the best. Sorry, I'm just adjusting some stuff in my apartment here. So it has one of the best theme songs ever. So the music in Only Murders in the Building is great. It's like genuinely catchy, and it fits exactly what the show is. It's great. So if anything, you should watch the show just to listen to the theme song. It's one of the theme songs you're not gonna skip. You say, oh, gonna watch this whole doodad. So yeah, Only Murders in the Building. Highly recommend. Everyone should be watching this. It's in the middle of its second season right now. Comes out on Tuesdays. It was a UPS truck driving by. Only Murders in the Building. Highly recommend. Especially if you're into like the true crime stuff. It makes fun of it a lot. Even if you're not into it. Like I haven't really done anything with true crime, but you still kind of get. You still the jokes are broad enough that you understand it, and they even do some winking. I mean, not actual winking at the camera, but basically winking at the camera. Especially in the second season now. I mean, they're really leaning into it about how they're making fun of it all. So, Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Another one that I recommend. All these shows I would recommend, but that's one. That's the one that's like incredible. Like it's weekly, released weekly, and yeah, it's something that I can't get enough of. So, Only Murders in the Building. That's those are just some things that I'm watching. I'm watching other stuff, but no one wants to hear about like Better Call Saul or Riverdale or whatever. Although Better Call Saul is it's back and it's still pretty good. I'm curious how they'll wrap it up. The Orville, so it's a good sci-fi show. That I think I think this is the last season, and that one is really leans into sort of the current events and what it has to say about society. The Orville, that is. So if you want to watch a show that really has something to say about human rights and things like that, that's the show for you. And it does have some very powerful and meaningful things to say. So yeah, that's the Orville, which is kind of a play off of Star Trek. It's kind of making fun of it, but also paying homage at the same time. So that's the Orville. Let's talk about what happened this past weekend. For those that are listening in real time, if you're listening later on, if you're listening years down the line, then that's actually pretty cool. We'll see how what's right, what that I'm about to say is right, and what that I'm about to say is wrong, because I think one of the biggest things that came out as far as Marvel was releasing their upcoming schedule. So if I pull this up here, Marvel at San Diego Comic-Con 2022 at late July is what I'm talking about here. Let's see, let's click on this. Yeah, there we go. So they sort of said, okay, here, because a lot of people have been watching this stuff. And, if you're not the biggest Marvel fan, maybe you don't care, but they've been saying they're kind of hit or miss on the movies, the recent movies, and they want to know sort of what the plan is. And I think people are exaggerating this, and I really don't care, because you just trust that they're. First of all, you've gotten what, 10, 12, well, now 14 years of great content out of it. Probably the greatest cinematic universe ever, right? As far as just building out an ensemble of interconnected movies, right? Something we've never seen before to this extent, I should say, and may never see again. So, particularly in the first 3 phases leading up to Avengers Endgame, although I guess Spider-Man Far From Home was the last movie in the previous phase. But anyway, so what I'm getting at is the first 3 phases were collectively known. So phase 1, which had, your Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, the first Avenger, and then ended, and okay, I actually had Iron Man 2 as well, but it ended with the first Avengers movie. And you had phase 2, which had a bunch of the sequels, and also threw in Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man, and had another Avengers movie. That was phase 2. And phase 3 is pretty much everything else since then. So you got Doctor Strange, you got a few more sequels, you got Spider-Man, that's when Black Panther and Captain Marvel were released, and actually two Spider-Man movies. And then also, obviously, Avengers Infinity War, and then Avengers Endgame. That was phase 3, and so those first 3 phases are sort of grouped together. So we have phases, which are a group of movies, and now we're grouping the phases. We're getting a little pyramid-y here, but those 3 phases are now referred to as the Infinity Saga, and then the next 3 phases, so 4, 5, 6, are going to be the Multiverse Saga, which makes sense given sort of what's come out. So you got your Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, got multiverse in the title. If anyone's seen Spider-Man No Way Home, you know that there's some multiverse stuff thrown in there. And so Phase 4 is basically, the stuff since Spider-Man Far From Home, not to be confused with No Way Home, which are similar titles just to confuse the audience, clearly. Recently Thor Love and Thunder, and you got Eternals and Shang-Chi, and we've talked about Shang-Chi on the podcast before, I think. And then Phase 5, you got a new Ant-Man movie, which will sort of introduce Kang to the big screen. Kang was in the Loki series. I guess, is that a spoiler for that? Whatever. Yeah, sorry. But Kang we saw on TV, let's say, and now he's reportedly the big bad in the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, Quantumania. I think that's a great subtitle, Quantumania. You got a new Guardians Galaxy movie. You got the Marvels, which is a sequel. I suppose it is a sequel to Captain Marvel, but you're going to see a lot of other types of characters in there. So it's kind of more like what Captain America Civil War was, right? It was technically a Captain America sequel, but it had a bunch of other stuff. The Marvels, I think, is going to be similar. Blade was announced. That'll come out in November 2023. And again, for if you're listening to this much later, like years later, I'd be curious how much of this is going to be accurate. Captain America New World Order, another great title. That'll come out in 2024, and then the Thunderbolts movie will be 2024, and that's one we really don't know what that's going to be about. I mean, we have an idea, like it could be, if you can pay attention to some of the TV stuff. You got Madam Web, who's played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's kind of putting together her team. That's what that could be about. We don't really know. They could also be in the next Captain America movie, which is going to focus on Falcon, who I guess is now Captain America. But anyway, that's Phase 5, and then Phase 6. For now, there's only 3 movies announced, but you have Fantastic Four, which they, I guess, officially announced they're doing a Fantastic Four movie, scheduled for November 2024. And this is like way in advance. And I love when they do this, where they say, get ready for this movie in 12 years from now. It's like, why are we talking about it? This is how you do content, right? Hashtag content. And then you got 2 new Avengers movies are going to be in Phase 6. And here's the strange thing. Okay, so they're called they're called the Kang Dynasty and the Secret Wars, which were kind of 2 things people thought were coming up. So, not predictable, but, expected. What's the difference? Those synonyms. But anyway, not completely shocked, I guess is what I'm getting at. But that's the titles that they're releasing. So anyway, the most interesting thing here is they're going to be released within the same year, just 6 months apart. So you got the first, or I guess Avengers Kang Dynasty, which is the first one that year, in May, and then the next one, Avengers Secret Wars, will be released in November. So it's a bit of like what they did with the Matrix sequels. Anything else did that? I don't remember. But sort of releasing 2 in the same year. I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if it'll be how successful it'll be. I mean, I assume, anything with the Avengers thrown on there is probably going to be pretty successful. You can pretty much guarantee that. But I do find it surprising they're doing both in the same year, unless they really do lead one to another. I'm surprised, because Infinity War and Endgame, they did basically a year apart, almost exactly a year apart. Right, you have April 27th, 2018, and then April 26th, 2019, almost exactly a year apart. So basically the last weekend in April, right? So doing this May and November release, I don't know. Is Disney trying to get the most money ever in one year? Who knows? Um, but then some things that were not talked about. You got some sort of mutant movie coming up. A sequel to Shang-Chi probably. Another Spider-Man movie probably, and then at some point they're gonna do a Deadpool movie. Um, Although I think that won't start. Looks like they're not going to start filming until next year, so that's way in the works. But I'm okay with that. A little break from Deadpool, and then we can get back into it. Deadpool. But we'll see how they kind of integrate that. But anyway, that's like the Marvel slate coming up from Comic-Con. There were trailers for what was the trailer for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. That looks great. I think everyone's curious to see how they handle the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And it looks like the whole movie's kind of a tribute to it, which looks great. And then we got a new trailer for She-Hulk. CGI still looks a little off. I think it looks much better than the first trailer, and I think it'll look fine once the show comes out. Right? I'm not that worried about it. Even then, it's like whatever. And I know. Like even some of the CGI in Miss Marvel, the most recent Marvel series, was a little, but yeah, I'm not worried, and that looks interesting. She-Hulk, and looks like they're bringing back Daredevil and that sort of stuff, and so Marvel TV is also, I just talked about the movies, but the TV shows have been kind of event television, as it is. That's Marvel. DC had a couple things that they released. They released basically trailers for Black Adam and the new Shazam movie, and Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and I think both look pretty good. They both come out this year, right? Just Shazam: Fury of the Gods, Shazam 2 is in December of 2022. And Black Adam, I thought that was Black Adam. Black Adam looks like it's October. So, toward the end of the year, we're going to get 2 more DC movies after the Batman was released earlier this year. Dwayne Johnson has been waiting for this Black Adam movie for over a decade. Like, it's not even an exaggeration. He's been like attached to this project for a long time. So good for him that he's finally getting this project out. So yeah, Black Adam and Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods. Also great, great trailers, and I look forward to watching those too. So DC had a bit of smaller. They didn't talk about anything else like Aquaman or The Flash or whatever, and you wouldn't expect them to talk about that sort of stuff given some recent controversies around some of the cast members in those, and I won't get into that. It's not worth it, especially with just me. I don't have anything to say. So, but anyway, I think that's it that I'll talk about today on this episode. I'm hoping to get a special episode for next week, and we'll see what happens. But we're hoping to do. I'm hoping to do something for next week, and if it doesn't happen, it might just be another solo episode. Scheduling is tough, especially in the summer. Sort of what I've noticed is the fall and the spring is a lot easier to get people to schedule stuff because they're not quite as busy, and they're a little more settled down. So I'm trying to keep the show going, and if people keep listening, we'll keep doing it. So thank you guys for listening to this episode. And again, if you have anything else, I guess we didn't talk about baseball or anything like that, or football. Baker Mayfield got traded, and you got Kyler Murray signed a contract, and that's fine. And I saw some more Lamar Jackson slander online, and whatever. I mean, it's like, how much do I have to say here? But that's really all I have. And baseball All-Star break came up, and so yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening, and again, leave comments. What do you guys want for these solo episodes in the future? What piques your interest? What would you be interested in me talking about? Because given that I have not exactly a great, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. It's more just like stuff that I've come across, and yeah. So yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.